Well. Again, guys, I just finished doing my first episode of my show, Money Chat with Ovalle, like a couple of minutes ago. So some of you have probably seen my face again. Now, this time, I'm going to be interviewing somebody. All right. And this person is Ashley Lauren. Welcome to my channel, Ashley.
Oh, thank you for having me. Good. How are you?
I'm good. Just relaxing, enjoying this Miami weather.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
Yes, I know. That's awesome. So we're going to get right into it.
Cool.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you anyway for, coming in live. And I know that we don't know each other. I reached out to you recently on Facebook, on Messenger. But the reason I know about you is because we are both part of a group on Facebook called Black Theology Corner. And I am one of the admins. And I actually, when you posted whatever you posted, I saw it and I was like, I'm definitely accepting this, you know. And then I looked into it and I'm like, wow, praise God, because the work that you do, which we'll be talking about, I'm very semi-connected with it. You know, especially that I work with youth and, abuse and trafficking, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking about that as well. Awesome. So with that being said, you are a certified mental health coach. Mm-hmm. You are a survival speaker, which will let you have an opportunity to let people know what that means or what that is. Mm-hmm. You are also a worship leader. However, because I can't fit everything in that poster, you have more hats. And I know you have more hats because I literally searched everything about you as far as like what you do in life and career. And I'm like, damn, that's what I'm talking about. So let us know, give me a brief bio of who you are, what you do, because again, you have like 30 hats. So let us know.
Yeah, I guess lately I've been trying to figure out how to like minimize for these interviews, what to say about that. My first and foremost like main prerogative is to serve God and to do it well and to utilize all of my skills that he's given me, which it comes from the entertainment industry and also works into the nonprofit realm. I've been able to be blessed to blend the two with both of just everything I'm doing. I've led with that pretty much the majority of my adult life, and it really has been super beautiful. So I would just really equate myself as to a ministry leader in both realms, and really being able to catapult God in those areas in different ways. So I'm also a casting director. I am a certified mental health coach. I'm an ordained minister and performer, everything. So honestly, on a good week, I'm doing all of those things at once. I lead at Elevation Online, which has been a blessing, and I lead the Survivor Women's Trauma Group that I created actually for the ministry there. So that is my heart. That is a big part of just, what gets me out of the bed in the morning and what leads everything that I'm doing now. And obviously a nonprofit leader. So.
Wow, man, bless your heart. Because that's a lot of managing, That's awesome. Well, I'm glad. And you know what? I love that you mentioned all of that because many times we think that when we hear the word ministry, we automatically tie it to church.
Right.
Ministry is not just in the church.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. Whatever you do for the Lord, even outside of the church, is outside of the four walls, is ministry.
Yes.
My job, what I do, I work with youth.
Yep.
In middle school and high school youth all over South Florida. Yeah. And we talk about healthy relationships and avoiding risky behavior. That's ministry.
Yep.
Even if you don't talk about God, that's still ministry.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely. It's so important. And I think more and more people need to understand that and break out of the mold of just thinking like you can only serve in a church. Like I for sure, and my background with God and how I truly came to God is very different than a lot of people's. Like I grew up in church, but like I had a lot of trauma growing up. So there was a lot of things that took me to get where I am in my relationship with God. And I just knew though from like birth, like he didn't or he didn't ordain me to like lead ministry specifically in the church. Like I'm that person that I can relate to a lot of people's struggles. Like I can relate to people being in the hood, you know, like I can relate to like being on the ground and like being afraid of like gang violence and such. I can relate to being abused. I can relate to addiction. I can relate to certain things and being able to overcome those things. So I want to be outside the four walls. Like I want to be, you know, in those places where I can like sit down with people and just like chill with them and like they can just see, you know, God's presence. And that's been a blessing to happen in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to talk about trauma, but before we get into that topic, because I know it's very sensitive and there's different kinds of traumatic experiences, including my life and my past. But as we said, your name is Ashley Lauren. Can you tell us where you come from? What's your ethnic background? Are you married? Are you single? Are you know, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I'm Ashley Lauren Elrod. That's my full name. I have two wonderful parents from Chicago, Illinois, originally, now in New York, but born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and on the outskirts as well. I come from, you know, a pretty good household, but, you know, obviously growing up, everyone has their things. Like we all can't be, you know, protected. I'm obviously like, you can't always be protected, unfortunately, from certain circumstances, especially when it comes to abuse. You know, abuse is very prevalent in different communities, especially minority communities. It's something that a lot of people have dealt with in regards to, you know, child abuse, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, you know, molestation, all of that. So I had to deal with that growing up from a family member, which I'm very open about talking about. That's a big part of my ministry and how I lead people the way I do. And, you know, I had to navigate that a lot because that affected a lot of my adulthood and just learning about who I am as, you know, a person, as a woman, and all of that jazz. So honestly, in 2013, I had like my first little breakdown. And at the same time, I also am, I like to be honest about this too. I'm a seer, and I have always had this gift since I was a kid. I've been able to read people very well. I've had dreams, visions, whatever, and everything's always ended up being accurate. I didn't know how to articulate it because I never learned about that in the church. I didn't really hear about prophecy and prophetic gifts and the elevations of what those look like. But that's been something I've had since I was born. And it got really, really weird when I started going through my struggles, honestly. And when I was at the lowest suicidal like point of my life. And I had some crazy spiritual things happen with God and the enemy in regards to that. And honestly, though, that was when God like saved me and like really woke me up because I was like at the end of my rope. Mentally, spiritually, physically, like I was just done. And so a big moment happened, literally a supernatural moment happened where like it felt like I woke up. I was dead for a year. I had no emotion. Like I never laughed. Like it was a very crazy time. I can't explain the feeling to people, but it's like people who've been there, they understand the hollowness that you feel like you feel like you're a zombie. Like you feel like aren't there anymore. And I woke up like instantly out of that moment, and it was crazy. But I've been through a lot to get through this point where I finally am like, I got to start healing, got to start going all the way back to the beginning where things happened in my childhood, amongst other things that happened, you know, growing up as well, and make peace with those things so I can be able to fully walk into my purpose. So long story short, where I am now, utilizing all of that to be able to help other people do the same.
Awesome. So talk to me about the whole survival speaker. What when somebody reads that, like survival of what? You know what I'm saying? So talk to us about it, because I believe this is very important that people can know, because a lot of people, especially women and young girls, are afraid to speak up with things that happen in their lives because of threats, or they just fear, or they don't know, they don't have the support, or people think that they're lying. So what is it tell me your part or your story when it comes to being a survival speaker.
Yeah, so I am a survivor speaker for Chicago Children's Advocacy Center, but also now throughout church and throughout my ministry that I've been leading of sexual abuse and assault. It's happened a couple of different times in my life, along with domestic abuse as well. So I talk about that too, and that is kind of that's birthed my ministry that I lead now, and my heart and empathy for women and men who have been through those circumstances, because men have been through it just as much as women, and honestly men are more hesitant to talk about it than a woman is. So it's it leads to a lot of different things, but it's something that I've been using to be able to speak at different events. I've been asked throughout different organizations to speak on it, as well as at trafficking organizations too, that I've worked closely with, because there's like a relative in regards to being abused. So that's what I've done a lot in my life.
Awesome. So talking about sex trafficking, so as you know, or if you don't know, Miami or Florida is very big.
Yes.
When it comes to sex trafficking, and I live like in the heart of it in South Florida.
Yeah.
And I live like 15 minutes away from the football stadium, which really didn't get down like that, And I was actually at a training yesterday at my job for sex trafficking and whatnot, and from the Florida Health Department. And one of their slides, the top states for human trafficking is California, New York, Texas, and Florida. And the top cities in Florida for that is Jacksonville, Orlando, Miami, and Tampa. It's crazy, because she said that out of those 5 states, or those 4 states, there really isn't a Florida's number 1, New York. It always changes.
Varies.
And it's unfortunately that sex trafficking is not just what we think or what we see in movies in India or third world country. It's in our own cities. You know what I'm saying? So what do you know about sex trafficking, especially in Chicago? And have you encountered anybody that been through that lifestyle or in there or whatnot?
No, I've had a heavy hand in sex trafficking, and helping with organizations, and actually being able to help in the regards to the fundraising process, but also being able to transport sex trafficking survivors into safe homes. So that's what I've done the past 6 years, actually, with Songs Against Slavery. That was an amazing former organization. Unfortunately, they had to close their doors, but they did some amazing work in regards to working with our partners at Thistle Farms, who I'm still connected with in Tennessee. They're amazing. If you don't know about them, check them out. They are a phenomenal organization that's been helping sex trafficking survivors get back on their feet, but also teaching them how to run businesses. All the products that they make are sold in stores like Target and CVS and all of that, and the money that's made from that goes directly back to the organization to continue to be able to help these women in regards to being able to build their own businesses and to continue to grow the model and keep it going. So they have housing there. They have just amazing. So we partnered with them for the past 6 years in regards to that. I've personally worked with sex trafficking survivors, even people that found me off of sharing my story on Instagram, who we helped transport to safety, and be able to also provide clothing and all the necessities that they needed to get back on their feet. So that's been a very rewarding experience. But sex trafficking, I've always told people, I've been advocating for it for the past 6 years. We toured the country also speaking about it and putting on benefit shows. That was the whole cool thing of blending music and activism, and that's what I love to do. Because people don't want to just come to sometimes to a benefit and it's just talking about all these draft statistics and such. They need to be engaged, but also feel a passion of being encouraged by very encouraging, beautiful music that can be hey, we're creating change by doing this, and this is how you guys can help. So we've been doing that, which has been awesome. And it's not just third world country thing. It's definitely alive in America. It has been for a very, very long time now. And it stems from different hierarchies of our system. Definitely the most impoverished areas are the ones, minority areas are the ones that are greatly affected by it.
Yeah.
A lot of runaways cases are obviously affected by it. Orphans, foster care, children that gets caught in the foster care system are all very susceptible to sex trafficking, unfortunately.
Awesome. And I praise God for you as another individual and child of God who's working in this area, to make the world better, or at least change at least one person's life.
Right. Yeah. If that's something you can do, it's enough for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So I was on your YouTube like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, oh snap, she's singing. I was watching that video. I forgot the name of it, but I was watching that video. I'm like, I'm like, talk to us about that. Like, is that gift like in your family, or that's just something that God gave you?
Yeah, music. My brother, actually, he's a music teacher, and he plays like so many different instruments, and we both actually ended up being natural. It's just like a natural thing with a natural in tune ear quality that some people have. So like we both can play music just by hearing it on instruments, and not by, like, we don't even have to read music. We can just hear it and then like play it. Mm-hmm. So we've always been like that since we were little. So our parents were like, oh, like get them into something. So he ended up taking the baritone, and I ended up doing violin. So ended up starting off with that, and then transferring to vocals and all that jazz. But I never was actually like trained in like voice until honestly college, when I went to Columbia and was working in theater and such. And that was the first time I'd ever gotten vocal lessons or anything professionally. But people were like, you can sing. Like I would just be like walking around my apartment, and my roommates would be like, Ashley, like you need to change your major. Like you need to be singing. And I'm like, no. And honestly, music was a complete God thing. If you would have told me, I would have been leading worship and traveling and being able to be signed and all that stuff as a musician, I would have laughed at you, because I just like never thought that. Like it was probably maybe a little hidden desire of my heart, but I definitely was not like, okay, I'm going to be a singer and try to use this for good or something. But it happened around 2011 is when I wrote my first song. And it just happened to be like, we put it out there and I just did it for fun. And people just were like, this is really good. Like, they were like, who is this girl? And I'm like, okay. And then I got signed to like Viacom, and it was crazy. And I was just like, okay, God, like, I guess we're doing this. So I started off that way. I had my launch party in conjunction with supporting the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center, which was the center that helped me get, justice in regards to my own abuse case. So I've been partnering with them for a very long time now, and now on the board there. So my music has always been in conjunction with giving back in some form or fashion to helping other people.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is what's up. So talking about music, do you have a music influence growing up or even now?
Yeah, I mean, every time I heard Whitney Houston, I was like, yeah, like, I don't know. I just always connected with her, especially like the Preacher's Wife album. Like I listened to that nonstop for like ever when that movie came out. I like had it on repeat. My parents were like, oh my gosh, please stop playing this like album. But I had it on repeat. There was something just about her voice. I mean, obviously Whitney Houston was very an anointed human being out of this world. I just, loved her. She definitely was my number one.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Even though you probably still say Whitney Houston because you already said number one.
Yeah.
Celine Dion.
Oh, I mean, she's phenomenal. Like she's on, I mean, when it comes to the OGs, like Celine, Whitney, Mariah, I mean, Patty, like, yes, like no one can steal the crowns.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely awesome. So let me ask you this, and this is very important because we're still on the topic of music.
Yeah.
Obviously we have, music that inspires in a in a beneficial and godly and positive way, and then music that's just straight up from the world and trashy or whatever the lyrics and whatnot. So we know the music that people listen to today. The Cardi B's and the City Girls and all that kind of stuff. So you working with young people, especially young girls, like what advice would you give to these young girls that probably, I don't know, who knows, maybe they struggle with promiscuity and struggle, maybe they've been molested and looking for something to satisfy them, yet they're very tuned in with listening to ungodly, inappropriate lyrics like Cardi B's lyrics and whatnot, or not even the women, just the guys too, because so what is what advice or how would you talk to somebody when it comes to that?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely when it comes to music, movies, I know it's been a hot topic, especially lately, of okay, what's, serving two guys and all this stuff. I know I've been reading a lot of things. I mean, I don't listen to Cardi B. I'm every time I have heard, we've all heard the songs because they play, it's inevitable. If you're listening to a commercial or something, or the challenges that are out there, and you're like, whoa, I think I heard that last song. I think I heard WAP in the grocery store actually, and I was like, and they were playing the unedited version, and I was like, what is this song? I was like, oh wow. I'm like, I know a lot of people listen to some of these songs too because they're like, oh, it's a good beat, it's just a good beat, and I'm just like, okay, but the lyric, how can you not be into with the lyrics? I'm just like, jeez, I don't know, I can't listen to it because I can't. I don't know. It's just no substance. I need something with substance, not something that's talking about all that. I think you just have to be very careful with what you're feeding your mind and your spirit with, because I'm not a prude or anything. Trust me, sometimes I'll be like, I need to listen to some Eminem. When I'm working out, if I need to listen to something that's a little bit more whatever, okay, I'll pop him on. The one person I'll pop on from time to time. I can't, I'm not gonna lie. But not the raunchier stuff, but it's some of the stuff that I really like of his that actually has some substance. But just got to be careful of those things in regards to just what you're feeding your spirit and your mind with, and also to go off your convictions, of being connected with God. I usually if I get convicted of something, I'm like, okay, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Probably shouldn't be listening to that or what have you. My spirit will convict me easily. That's just me though. I'll get convicted and I'll be like, okay, then that's something I need to work on. And no one's perfect. We all listen. I'm sure we all had that one thing we grew up with that we're that one song that we're like, oh man, that's a jam. Let me just play that just to remember, but I do, personally for me, I do primarily what I do listen to is worship music now, and good encouraging music with upbeat lyrics and speaking encouragement. That's what I'm about. I love it. I think it just keeps my soul in a good place, specifically for me. And I always challenge people to think about that. Is it giving you, some substance? Is it feeding your soul? Is it making you feel good, to accomplish something that day? Or is it making you, because sometimes, when you listen to things or put things in your spirit that are maybe a little toxic, that can make you start thinking certain things and wanting to do certain things. People don't realize that it's all of those things get downloaded into your brain as a psychological component. Just porn, for instance, if you start watching that, it's that's a psychological thing that people actually don't realize is doing a lot of damage and not any good. It serves no purpose. So yeah, just people have to be careful about that.
Cool. Tell me about the Bible. Do you have a favorite book and a favorite chapter or a favorite verse?
One thing. Isaiah 61 is my banner. I have a lot of history with that. Specifically, when I started going through my crazy time of like I said, my gift started growing. There was a lot of things happening spiritually. That chapter actually like kind of opened up to me at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I like have ever since. That's been my banner. Part of that song, I realized later on in life when I wrote Warrior, literally that's like that's literally the song is Isaiah 61. Taking up the brokenhearted, helping people, like literally giving joy for mourning and beauty for ashes. Like literally that is the song.
Yeah.
So it's like God was very intentional with all of that. And it's been confirmed to me in my life too several times by like random people, like Isaiah 61. I'm like, okay, that's my banner for my life. But I think my favorite book, honestly, Job is probably one of my favorite books. I think because I can relate to the story of Joseph so much as well.
Yeah.
Like I've been through a lot of different crazy things in my life that only God could get me out of. And there's a lot of things that I couldn't explain that I went through, but I can relate to those two people greatly, and how he got me through into this next moment of being able to thrive and be fruitful and be able to use everything to be able to serve and honor him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And let me talk about.
Sorry, there's like some banging happening upstairs.
It's okay. I don't know. It's all right. But I want to talk about accountability, because us humans, we were all born to be relational with each other. We're not all born to be our own little island.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know there's some people that struggle with that because of depression, super introverts. They just want to be, or they just feel like the whole world is against someone else. But as far as your life and what you've been through, how important it is for people to support you, or to be there and cry with you, or to fight with you and see you succeed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How important it is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. It really, really is. And I lead my group of women, and we've been really working on that in this season for them, because a lot of them, have fallen into that pattern sometimes. Like when things get hard, that's when people revert. And I've been really challenging in this season of like, God created us to be in community. God created us to be led by people who can stand strong with us. And that's a very important component, even for leaders. Like I needed like a lot. I need people like for real, like around me. And a lot of all leaders do. They need accountability more than anybody, because they're handling a lot. They're handling other people's trauma, other people's stress and secrets and all this other stuff that they may not tell people, and you're harvesting all of that. You have to be held accountable to keep all of that. And if you don't have the accountability to make sure you're staying healthy, and people are making sure, hey, how's your heart, how's your mind, how's your spirit, how can I speak into your life, then it can be very easy. And as we've seen in from a lot of examples, especially the past year with pastors in general, if you don't have that accountability, it can lead down to a road that unfortunately, you find yourself on, and you're like, whoa, how did I get here? So it's definitely important, to have accountability, have therapy, like even if you don't think that you need it, like, hey, talking to a therapist once in a while is not a bad thing. Like it's a good thing. Like get one, like even if it's just to talk. You don't think anything's wrong. It's good to have that and be aware with yourself.
Definitely. Yeah, my wife, she says it all the time, because she has a bachelor's in psychology, but she wants to go to grad school for mental health counseling.
Awesome.
She always says it like, people think therapy is only for those who are going through like a crisis.
Yeah.
No, I think everybody on some level, whether small or big, we all need some type of therapy.
Yep, we do. We do.
Together. Sometimes we just like a breakdown, and like we need somebody to talk to. Why is this happening? What's the root of this? So we all need it.
Yeah, we do. We do. We definitely.
Many of us don't want to admit that we need it. You know what I'm saying? But we're all broken people in front of God.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Like we always are going to be going through something that we need help with, like regardless of how good our life may be.
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you a more of a lighter question.
Yes.
What do you do for fun?
Honestly, I love to I just got Netflix for like the first time like last year. Because I haven't watched TV in like almost a decade.
Mm.
I stopped watching it, and it was a great, like I was doing a fast with my church, and then all of a sudden I was like, this is great. I'm not gonna I can live without TV. So I had just went to the movies. That was my thing. I love going to the movies, and unfortunately, COVID has stripped stripped that, and they haven't quite opened back up yet in New York. But I've just been I got Netflix. I've been, finding good shows, documentaries to watch. I love learning about other people's lives. I've really done a lot of biography.
Oh yeah, I love those.
Love it. So I've done a lot of that this past season of just like learning about other people. That's been like a big thing of my fun this season. Horseback riding, volleyball. I have a little bunny. She's like under my bed right now.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So, just hanging out and chilling with her. So that's been my fun for right now. I love traveling. When things are normal, I'm always on a road trip or I am like going somewhere new. I love traveling. That's a big thing I love to do. I think it's a big way of learning about the world, yourself, other people. I think that's the only great way to really learn besides, substantial books, to be honest, at this point, to really learn about the truth of what's going on out here. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, since we're still in the middle of a pandemic, although not much of a shutdown or quarantine, what is one thing that you started doing besides Netflix? But what is one thing that you started doing during the pandemic or quarantine that you didn't do pre-COVID?
Honestly, I started horseback riding again recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was actually a God thing that even came back into my life. I actually grew up competing, and I was really happy. Yeah. I was heavily competing hunter jumper, so I was the one jumping over the fences with the horse. That was a huge love of mine, and I used also too. That was a part of my therapy, and also I helped kids with disabilities throughout volunteering in regards to horses and all that, which is great. But yeah, the opportunity arose where I could go to a stable all of a sudden, and I'm like, this is great. It's awesome to get out of the city and be able to just be in nature and around horses again. I think they're just the most amazing animals on this planet. So yeah, I've been able to
seem like sweet animals.
Yes. They are. I mean, they're one of the oldest animals on the earth.
Yeah,
and they're just so majestic and they just have such cool souls. So yeah.
Nice. Imagine a unicorn. If that exists, I think you would own one.
Unicorn. Yeah, I probably would if they were real.
That is so cool. That is cool. So, what is your what upcoming projects you have or you're working on, or what do you want to do in the near, the next years or what?
Yeah. Man, that's a loaded question because I have a lot of projects. I'll just say the one because the one other one's kind of still under wraps right now. But I'll be producing actually a documentary. And we're going to be breaking ground on that very soon in regards to horses and connecting horses and humans, because I think it's been a beautiful therapeutic thing. It's actually a big form of cognitive therapy. And it's something that I think if more people had access to, it'd be a really beneficial thing, because it's just something about being able to learn to trust an animal like that and have them also trust you, because they're all based off of energy and emotion, that you start to also tap more into who you are as you're going through that process. So we're going to be filming that with 2 foals, which are 2 babies that are going to be born in the spring. Yeah, it's never really been done before, and we're excited. We're going to literally see how we can blend with these newborn foals and train them off of energy and off of being able to truly connect with them, and not just the westernized way of the approach. So that's what we're going to be working on.
That's awesome. Do you know there's a guy on Instagram? I love watching his video. His name is, I think, Dean Snyder or something like that. He has blonde hair.
Yeah.
He lives in Africa. And he's like amongst the lions.
Oh, is he like, he's like the real Tarzan?
No, that's the other guy. That's the other guy.
Oh,
the real Tarzan, he lives here in Miami.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he lives here in Miami.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but the other guy, he's actually from like the UK or he's British, something like that. But I watch his video and it's just amazing how he connects with the lions. Like there's like a good 7 of them.
Wow.
And of course, he takes care of them, and he has his own separate like house away from the the land, whatever. But he wakes up and it's like the whole Africa, and I'm like, dang, like But he just like, it's amazing how he connects with them, and they don't do anything to him.
Yeah.
They jump on him. They lick him, and he's like lives like them in a way.
Yeah.
And he's filming videos while they're eating like a zebra.
Yeah.
He's filming them.
Wow.
When we're doing all that, and it's just like amazing. But then in another section, he has 2, I think it's 2 cheetahs. I think it is. Beautiful, beautiful animals.
Yeah.
And then in his house, he has like 4 dogs, but then he has these cute little monkeys. They're so cute. But the fact that he's able to, blend in with them lions and live like that is amazing.
I'm not sure what his whole deal with like the sanctuary and stuff is, but it can be very cool just to connect with the animal. Like it's really beautiful for sure. So we're going to be working on that. And I'm going to check him out actually later on, but that's super cool. But we'll be doing that. I do have a big project in the works too. Hopefully coming up in 2023, my plan is to open up the first sanctuary where we'll be able to have trafficking survivors, trauma survivors be able to come and go through a program where they're going to go through this therapy. And they're also going to be able to go through therapy just in regards to water therapy, to be in the mountains, so be able to go through hiking and just really connecting and bonding with the natural self with God is going to be the goal. That's the major goal. We're in talks right now of getting that created and built, and I'll be hopefully working with Project Micah in regards to that. So that's like the big goal coming up here.
That is awesome. Have you ever? There's an organization here in Miami called Christie House.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've heard of them, but they've been around 20 years and more, and that's what they dedicate their life on.
Awesome.
Dealing with former sexual, trafficking survivors, and they have like homes or cabins or whatever for them to stay at, and I don't know other services, but they're like the biggest one here in Miami, and they're still going on, so it's beautiful that you guys seen that. There's a lady that I met, and I know, still have to get her on my channel, but she lives here not too far from me. Her name is Dr. Katarina Rosenblatt.
Okay.
She's her family's from like Finland and something like that. But she was born and raised in Miami, and she was trafficked at the age of 14.
Wow.
Or 13, something like that, and she unfortunately, she lived that lifestyle as a trafficker, being trafficked.
Yeah.
And thankfully she was able to survive and escape it.
Yeah.
And now she has her own ministry. She works very close with like the South Florida police task force for trafficking.
Yeah.
She's close with the CIA and the police.
That's awesome.
And stuff. So she's she has a book called Stolen. You can look it up on Amazon.
She sounds familiar, and Stolen, I've heard of.
Stolen, and she just shares all the details and stuff in her book. She's very awesome. She's all over the place. She's been on many news outlets. So she's very, it's awesome to hear somebody that's like that, and doing workshops and going to the school system.
Yeah.
To these young girls and the parents, because the parents need to know.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? They don't know. Most of them are older, and we live in Miami, specifically where I live. There's a lot of mostly Haitians.
Yeah.
My wife is Haitian as well, but a lot of older Haitians don't know how to navigate and know much about social media.
Yeah.
Especially that they're older, then they still live in the old school ways.
Right.
So they need to know about this because kids are on social media.
Yeah.
They can easily be trafficked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Child abuse too. Like it's the same. Yeah. Being able to educate, people in regards to that too. It all goes hand in hand for sure.
And and I'm from the Caribbean, so I mean I was born in New Jersey, but in the Caribbean countries, DR, Haiti, whatever, like stuff like that, you don't talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, really, like here too.
Yeah, I know people personally that have been molested by their parents or uncles or cousins or whatever. But what did they tell you? Hush.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing. It's honestly, I mean, we've talked about it too in the group several times. It's just like, it's just a cultural thing. And that's something I've been trying to, I think I have been the first person, honestly, in my family to break that norm. And to actually be bold about it and be like, no, we need to talk about this. We need, that's when healing, the darkness always comes to the light and God always is going to use it anyway. So it's just like, you just can't ignore it. And when you do continue to ignore it, you're only hurting yourself. You're not being able to rise to your full potential. You're not being able to fully have him use you the way you could be used. And it's like, we can't continue to hide these stories anymore. Like you need your healing. You need, and your healing can lead to your family's healing because most likely a lot of people else and, a lot of people in your family went through it too. So it's like, you being able to do that and open the conversation up it's important.
Somebody said mental health is a very underspoken topic in the community, especially in the Christian community.
Yes.
And I totally agree. However, I do believe that mental health, more people are talking about it now in the church compared to but it's still a struggle because unfortunately, many people believe mental health equals demonic, or being possessed by demons. Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily. Especially as a believer, I mean, what your stance is this, but as a Christian, I don't believe I can be demonically possessed.
No.
I can be oppressed. You know what I'm saying? But if a person struggles with mental health or they're depressed, that does not mean they have demons.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And go ahead. I know you have something to say about that.
No, I mean, being someone, because I went through a mental health, the program, and it was a Christian one. So it was very awesome to like have both of those things side by side by these amazing professionals who are like, that's the first thing they're like, do not say that. Like, like all of them are like, that's just not how you go about things. And that's not true. So I loved that was the first thing they said. Like, you can't tell people that they're possessed. You can't tell people it's a spiritual, like it's people, psychological issues are real. Like trauma is real. Like people getting abused when they're a kid. And if you don't deal with that, like no matter how strong you think you are, that's right then and there that starts building a different part of yourself that truly is not you. Like that's because you're being affected by trauma of somebody else. And that continues to build as you go into adulthood. And then when you get to an adult, certain things and the way you do certain things, a lot of the things you do can be stemmed from your abuse. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like it's called the inner child, and it's about the wounded inner child. And I had to go through this myself because I realized this in myself in my own healing journey that wounded little Ashley was still like putting herself in situations with people that kept her there too long in abusive situations. And it's like, whoa, like why did I do that? Because I was accustomed to dealing with it at a young age. And you learn about that as you grow older. And I talked about this to people all the time now. I think the older we get, the more we have to unlearn. Honestly, it's like forever we're going to have to be unlearning and being aware of things and why we do things the way we do. them. And it's so fascinating. But when it comes to the whole spiritual thing and people saying like, oh, you're just not praying enough, or you need to bring it to God more and this and that. There's a psychological imbalance that happens when people go through trauma, PTSD. All of these things are very serious, and that's something you just never ever say to a person because they actually need psychological help. They need to go through the healing. They need to go through that process with God to be able to heal. And there's people in the Bible, like all the people in the Bible struggled. Like when people say these things, I'm like, who in the Bible did not struggle with some kind of thing that God needed to help them through?
Yeah.
You know? And not once did it say that ever they were all like magically taken away. It's like he had to process with them through each and everything. So why in the world would you try to say anything different for anybody that you know?
Exactly.
Or don't know in regards to a struggle?
Exactly. That is so true because I don't know if you know the story of who we know as the Prince of Preachers, Charles Spurgeon.
Wow.
He suffered depression throughout his whole ministry in the 1800s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yet he was still living for the Lord and doing what he had to do.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing. He speaks about it in his, works.
Yeah.
Like, he went through that.
Yeah, like sometimes it's just, it is what, but at this point I'm just like, you know what, God, it is what it is. If this is still in my life, if I'm still feeling this certain way, like there's a reason why it's here. And it has me drawing closer to you, if anything. It has me knowing that I have to rely on you more than anything.
Yeah.
And it keeps me, it's kind of like the thorn in your side. It's like, I don't think any of us are ever going to walk in this life without having to struggle with something.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, if we're being aware, a lot of people aren't aware. They're like, oh, well, I don't struggle. I don't, it's like, no, you do, but it's probably that's what you do, and is a struggle, like, thinking that you're not struggling with something. But it's like, he will always have something that reminds you that you need him. That period.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So tell me, Ashley, what's a pet peeve that you have?
A pet peeve. I think a pet peeve of mine, and we're actually going to be working on this in our group, is consistency and commitment. And because I counsel and everything, and a lot of people sometimes like they'll get it for 5 seconds and then it's like, oh, it's like something happens and it's like the whole world is ending or something. And it's like, we have to learn to be consistent. We have to learn to commit to the action. If we don't learn to truly commit to the action and we learn to be consistent in every part of our lives, then we can't expect our lives to be that great. It's like, you can't say, okay, I'm with it, I'm in it, and then the next moment you're like breaking down because of not something that's not so serious that happened, like not serious at all, something that happened, so that's, I think, my pet peeve of like helping people for so long and they still are kind of like not taking accountability for the action to just commit and stay consistent. So I think that's like one of my biggest pet peeves.
Cool. This is a good question. Ashley, if you knew that you were to die tomorrow, what message, God forbid though, even though you'll be with the Lord, even better, but God forbid, what message would you leave behind to the Christians, and what message would you leave behind to the unbelievers?
Oh, honestly, probably would be the same thing. Because I think it's something that everyone's struggling a lot with right now on both sides collectively, is seeking the Spirit. Being able to really be filled and seek.
I think you froze.
Oh, did I freeze? Am I here?
Wow, you froze on this one question.
I did?
Oh
no.
Man.
Can you hear me?
All right, she'll come back, hopefully.
Oh no.
Now you're good.
Oh, I am?
Now you're good. You froze.
So weird, because I was moving and I was saying you.
Now you're good.
The enemy's like, no. In regards to what I would say, man, but a big thing God's been speaking to me right now, and the word he's been speaking to me is get back to the spirit and be focused on your tree. Those are two things that God's been really speaking to me in this past season of everything we've been going through as a country. Whether you're a believer or non-believer, people need to get back to being grounded as human beings, which when we were first born, we were these beautiful, pure essences of the Lord. And that's something that I think we should always be striving to in regards to our lives as adults, is remembering that and trying our best to get back to that. And I think that's why we're struggling a lot, is because a lot of things are not rooted in the spirit. They're not rooted out of love. A lot of the conversations and a lot of what I've seen, have been rooted out of religious zealousness and ignorance, honestly, of not being able to interpret the word correctly. Because if the spirit is not connected, then we can't connect with the word. Like we can't, God, Jesus and his ascension left us with the Holy Spirit, get the option to be filled with it. And that's our only soul connection to God, says the word. But if we are not fully connected with that, how can we discern his word properly to be able to love on other people and not judge them, not slap it over their heads, not attack them with scripture? How can we actually be human beings that can sit with someone and talk out of love, out of the spirit only, when it comes to situations like abortion, like what you think, whatever God is leading you to say about that, or sex, whatever, porn, like all of these situations that are very real in our world, and very hurtful struggles in our world right now, in and out of the community. It's like we need to learn how to properly be able to lead out of the spirit and have these conversations. Because I don't think that's happening right now, and people see that. People are watching, people watch the community, and a lot of people are either turned off by it, and they're like, oh, Christians are all like this, when that's not the case. And, and they want nothing to do with it, and for me, I have been blessed to be able to see a lot of people who are not believers, like in the entertainment industry specifically, who just having natural conversations with them about like what God has done in my life, how Jesus, I believe Jesus really was like, Jesus flipped tables. Jesus was like, listen, I depart from me. Like, I need to go chill on the mountaintop. Like y'all take care of it. Okay. I'm gonna go, and being real about it and coming from, that standpoint and that perspective. People have been like, wow, I've never heard Jesus talked about, like, I've never heard anyone talk about Jesus like that. I have never heard stuff like that. And like when I did go to church, when I did go there. And I mean, I've always been turned off by, Christians and the way they talk and speak about certain things. But you like make it a way where I'm like, wow, I want to learn more about Jesus. Like my colleague just said this a few weeks ago, and I just was like, laughing with her, like, man, Jesus right now would be like this. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, like in the word, like, there was this moment where all these people were bum rushing him after he just spoke for how many hours, and he fed them and everything. And then all of a sudden they was trying to come up to him for more. And he was like, departs, like, wow. I'm going to go have some alone time. For real. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. And we were talking about boundaries. We were talking about a simple thing about having boundaries and how she was struggling with that work and with people. And I started telling her, like, Jesus had boundaries, like, and it's just simple like that. And she was like, man, I need to be more like Jesus. Like, I need to learn more about So just coming from a way where we're not being so legalistic and up the stick about stuff, and going back to remembering when you first got saved. Remember when you first felt the Holy Spirit. Remember when you first encountered, that moment. And if you can't remember that moment, then maybe you're not quite there yet, and you don't have the right to really be trying to use the word and throwing out scriptures to people if you can't even pinpoint that moment you knew God touched your life.
Definitely.
That's
good. So I have 2 more questions, and these are more fun bonus questions. They're less serious. Right. So, and I like these 2 questions that I picked because it goes with your personality and what you like to do or whatnot.
Awesome.
So, the first one is, would you rather sit with a resting lion for 10 minutes or run across a hungry alligator's back?
I'll sit with a lion, a resting lion. But also, I love lions. Like, my album cover is a lion with
All right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. There was one that I have here. Where is it? Okay. This is a really good one. This may be tough because based on what you do in life and ministry and whatnot.
Okay.
Would you rather lose your hearing or your sight?
Oh, my hearing, because I can do. I can speak sign language, so I would rather just. I would like, my sight would be terrible.
Okay, that's good. For me, that would be hard. I mean, I think my sight though.
Because if you lose your hearing, I mean, at least you can learn. ESL, and that's something people are pretty accustomed to nowadays. But it's like if you lose your sight, you're having to relearn everything.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. That's true. And sometimes I think about that, man. What would it be like if I can't hear? Because I think I mentioned it earlier that I have hearing problems, and it runs in my family.
Yeah.
I wear hearing aids. I don't have them right now, but I usually wear hearing aids. So I can't imagine losing my hearing. But then again, I can't imagine losing my sight. Like all the beautiful things that I see.
I know.
In my life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. I would rather lose my hearing for sure. They just have to learn something, and ASL is pretty easy to learn.
Yeah.
It's visual. So I would rather do that than rather having to
For real. I'll just follow the dreams of what's her name? Wow, I forgot her name. The one that did the movie, The Miracle Worker.
Oh
my gosh, I can't believe I forgot her name. It's been a long time.
I know. Her.
Oh yeah, her.
That girl, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're coming to an end of this interview. So can you let us know where can we find you?
Yes. So I am Ashley Lauren Elrod. If you want to teach us, Ashley. Hey, Kalan. I am at Ashley Lauren Official on Instagram, and I'm Ashley Lauren Elrod. I lose hearing. Yeah, me too. And then on Facebook, I'm Ashley Lauren Elrod and Ashley Lauren. Okay. So those will both pop up. The Ashley Lauren Elrod is my counseling page, and then the Ashley Lauren is just my music and all that jazz.
Cool. My wife's saying hi right there.
Hi. Oh, you're so beautiful.
Thank you.
I see her picture.
Yeah. Awesome. So yes, I will be putting all this information on the description for you guys, so you can just check her out. Check out her music video, doing her thing, and for her upcoming projects as well. So again, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you and the work that you do for the Lord. You're not alone. So be blessed and have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.